Hey guys, so now I want to explain to you mathematically why saving and investing your first 100k is a magical number that will help to snowball your wealth towards £1 million or $1 million. Charlie Munger, a veteran investor and multi-billionaire, has been credited for saying that 100k is what you need to get saved first in order to build wealth. A number of years ago, a young man asked Charlie Munger at an event for some advice because he was struggling to save and invest his money and see his net worth grow. And Charlie Munger said saving that first 100k is absolutely challenging but necessary. Specifically, he said, it's but you've got to do it. I don't care what you have to do. If it means walking everywhere and not eating anything that wasn't purchased with a coupon, find a way to get your hands on $100,000. So for today's video, I want to really explore why this number matters. Now, this video is part 2 to a video we made last week on how to actually save that first 100k. Because a lot of you watching this might be thinking, Ken, 100k seems absolutely impossible. It's pretty much like trying to climb Mount Everest. And last week, I revealed to you guys a case study of how Jenny, a member of our community, somebody who follows our work, saved her first 100k through diligent saving and investing and trying to earn more. If you've not seen that video, you definitely want to make sure you see it in addition to this one. I'll link to it below and above. Now, even if you are super far away from 100k, my goal for making this video is I hope it will inspire you and give you an aim. Yeah, because if you know that this is exactly what happens once you hit 100k, it should definitely motivate you to try and do everything possible to save and invest till you get to that 100k mark. Now, in order to show you guys why this 100k really matters, I'm going to be doing a couple of scenarios. I will look at saving and investing £10,000 per year at a return of 7% and 5%. Now, in case you're thinking to yourself, 7% is an unrealistic return to achieve, I've written a detailed blog post that I want you to go and check out in your own time that shows you the different places that you might be able to invest to achieve that kind of return. So I'll link to that blog post below and above for you to go over and check it out. But remember, that return is over a long period of time, so potentially decades down the line. But to keep things absolutely realistic, I'll also be looking at a 5% return scenario. If you're really enjoying today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you can get notified when we make more videos just like this one. And whilst you're there, hey, go ahead and like the video if you're getting value from it. All right, let's jump straight in. Hey guys, so here's a compound interest spreadsheet I put together. Imagine that you've got someone who's 30 years old, they've got a 40-year investment horizon, and they're looking to invest about £10,000 per year, which is £833 per month. And their annual assumed return, this is an average return of 7%. Okay, so you can see this then works out on one column, the age, time, and the amounts compounding. I wanted to do this so we can visually see what this looks like. For this individual, hitting that first 100k, as you can see, if we scroll all the way down here, we take them 7.7 years. And I've put it in this format as a graph so we can visually see it. You know, you start with 10k and the effect of compounding then starts really kicking at assuming again an average 7% return. Okay, you can see that takes us all the way to around £100,000 in 7.7 years. Now, assuming that individual actually carried on investing £10,000 per year, something pretty powerful actually happens. I'm going to make a 7% return here. Then I'll also do another scenario with a 5% return. You can see here that for every 100k, what's really happening here is pretty remarkable because the first 100k, as we saw earlier, took 7.7 years to happen. The next 100k, if they carried on investing 10k per year, would take 5 years to happen. And then the next one would take 3.75 years to happen. And then it will carry on like that. Notice how the numbers keep dropping, the years keep dropping, everything from that very difficult first 100k taking 7.7 years to the last 100k taking 1.33 years, giving a total of 30.3 years. Now, what I thought was really remarkable when we take a much closer look at these numbers is the power of compounding at work. Note that the first 300k actually takes 16.4 years. More years than the last 700k, which actually takes 13.9 years to happen. And you can see this very visually as we look at this chart down here. Now, in case you're thinking to yourself, do you know what, Ken? 7% seems a bit ambitious. What about a lower number? Something that might seem a bit more realistic. By the way, I think 7% is actually pretty realistic for thinking many, many years ahead of us, decades down the line. But if we're looking at a 5% return, pattern remains exactly the same. The first 100k will take 8.2 years. The next will take 5.8 years. The next 100k to get us to 300k will take 4.5 years. And you can see it carries on decreasing year after year to a very low 1.83 years to go from 900k to that £1 million. However, note that the first 300k takes 18.5 years, actually takes more time than the remaining 700k, which takes 17.8 years to bring us to that total of 36.3 years. So guys, you've seen that. I've shown you what happens once you hit that very first 100k. And maybe you might be thinking to yourself, why does that happen exactly? So I want to unpack that right now. So the very first reason why you see that big shift in the number of years dropping significantly every year is because of exponential growth that comes from compound interest. To illustrate the power of compound interest, let's look at two scenarios. Let's say that you were saving and investing 10k a year at 7% and you left that running for 40 years. And you might think to yourself that you'd get the same returns if you doubled the amount you're investing, so go from 10k per year to 20k per year, but rather than leaving it for 40 years, you invested for 20 years instead. Again, the same 7% return. Have a guess at what actually happens from a returns perspective. I'll put this up on the screen for us to take a look at. On the screen there, you can see that 10k per year over 40 years at 7% turns out to be £2,059,618. Yeah? Whereas your 20k, which is twice the amount, although invested for half the time of 20 years, again, the same return, only leads to £845,893. What this tells us is that the power of compounding requires time to work. The longer you leave that money invested, the more you see the power of compounding truly at work. And again, just to illustrate this, I've got a chart up on the screen for us to take a look at. On that chart, you can see you've got two lines there of us investing £10,000 per year, 7% return over a period of 40 years. You can see that if you left your money compounding and reinvesting your dividends and so on, you would end up with over £2 million, as I mentioned before, as you can see with that blue line. But if you didn't actually reinvest anything, or if you just left your money in your bank account, that money just goes on a straight line. So the beauty of compounding is actually what happens when that curve goes like that. We have that curve going upwards, it's indicating that there's a greater acceleration of your money and you are building wealth a lot faster because money is working on money. The second reason why every additional 100k after your very first 100k takes a lot less time to achieve is because you began with a much larger portfolio size. Now this particular one is one that really explains why the rich get richer. Take the example, practical example. Imagine you had 100k and you invested that and generated a 7% return. Yeah? A 7% return on 100k is £7,000 or $7,000, for example. That's £7,000 that you've just received as a return on your investment for actually doing nothing apart from having your money invested in the right environment. And then the very next year, that 100k plus that 7k, together that 107k then generates another 7% return, and so on. So a £7,000 addition to your original 100k is a significant amount because that amount itself, that £7,000, then goes on to generate even more of a return. So what that then does is that 100k that you started off with then creates a much bigger snowball effect later on down the line as the years pass by, leading then to subsequent 100ks that you're generating, taking a much smaller amount of time to achieve. In summary, it's a combination of the exponential growth that comes from the compounding and the fact that you actually started with a much larger portfolio size. But there's a third reason that leads to you actually getting to this outcome. And that third reason is all the various things that you needed to have achieved first in order to get to your very first 100K. And we explained this in our previous video that we made. In order to get to that very first 100K, a number of things need to have happened. For example, you of course need to be living below your means, for example. You need to be very good at being able to budget on a monthly basis. You need to up your income level, because staying at the same income level will not be enough for you to save and invest a significant amount on a monthly basis. You will have needed to change your lifestyle. For example, minimize your lifestyle such that you are then able to create a much bigger buffer in order for you to save and invest. In addition to that, you'll have learned to automate your investing such that you're then able to live on what's left over after you have invested your money. There's so many changes in your habits and in your behaviors as an individual that would have led to you becoming that person who gradually and painstakingly over many years gets to that point where you've saved and invested your very first 100K. That change in your habits, your behaviors, your money mindset, and so on effectively builds a really solid foundation such that you're that person who not only saves and invests 100K one day, but you likely become that person who sees their wealth grow consistently over time because they have managed to maintain those money habits that they've developed in that painstaking journey of building that very first 100K. I want to wrap up this video by saying that getting to your very first 100K is very difficult. Make no mistake about it. But it's something that's available to you if you actually set it as a goal. One of the biggest reasons why a lot of people don't actually achieve a lot in their lives financially is because they actually don't set it as a goal in the first place. My hope with this video is that this video has encouraged you. It's giving you the insight into why getting to 100K actually matters from a wealth building perspective. And I hope it's giving you hope that although it takes a long time to get to that very first 100K, what you expect to happen after you've gotten to that first 100K means that you've got a very clear roadmap towards building wealth and ultimately achieving financial independence one day in the future. One thing I will mention is, although I've not talked about it a great deal in this video, definitely make sure that you are keeping all your assumptions reasonable. Okay, so I looked at a 7% return, then I looked at a 5% return. Definitely make sure you're keeping your assumptions reasonable because, as we know, with everything to do with the stock market, things never ever go up in a straight line, which is why these are purely illustrations. But the beauty of investing is that we know that things go up and down. But history has shown us that over time, the stock market tends to go upwards overall. So let that encourage you, because I know there'll be people who say, well, actually, in the last 2 years, my stocks have fallen down. I've not earned any money. I've actually lost money and so on. And that's because we're looking at things in a very narrow frame of time. Think long term when it comes to your investing. Stay diligent, stay consistent, and keep things automated in order to see your money grow over time. And of course, don't forget the effects of inflation, which will play a role in reducing the purchasing power of your money over time. But starting that investing journey gives you the best possible chance of beating inflation and seeing your wealth grow over time. Guys, I really hope you've enjoyed today's video. Like I said earlier, if you really enjoyed it, would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button, and would love to hear from you guys in the comments. Where are you on that journey towards that first 100K? Even if you are at point 0, I want to hear from you in the comments, because what matters is that you've acquired this knowledge now, and I hope it's giving you that motivation to start saving and investing. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and as always, in all things, be thankful and seek joy. Take care, people, and bye.